Hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Sari Baatein. Hope you are doing good and keeping yourself safe. We are back after I think 3-4 weeks. We are meeting after a long time. So I'm very excited about today's episode because we have an imminent guest with us today. So let me just welcome our guest.
Hi, namaste.
Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste.
I hope you are doing good.
So far, so good.
And ma'am, you are looking so pretty, I must say.
Thank you. I wore something traditional today because I wanted to share with you and the audience. The sari has a story, and the jhumkas also have a story. So, so we will get to that later. But it's a traditional sari from the Tamil tradition, which is the Kanchipuram silk, and which I'm very, very fond of. So thank you so much for inviting me to. Thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation.
It is my honor that you came to the show and you wore your most favorite sari as well. I'm so happy. So let me introduce ma'am. Of course, I think she doesn't need much introduction, but still I like to introduce her. She is a renowned classical dancer as well as a contemporary dancer. She's the founder of Arangam Dance Institute, as well as she has an online dance portal which is nartiki.com. I think she started in 2000, way back in 2000 when online portals were not that common. So, of course, she is a well-renowned performer. She has got recognition because of her dance, and I think she is an art catalyst, a performer, and and your work is an inspiration, ma'am.
Thank you so
I
much.
was
Thank
just,
you.
and of course she's a choreographer as well, with a rich I think with a rich work that stands behind her. Welcome to the show, ma'am. She is Anita Ratnamji, and it's
Thank you.
my honor, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Ma'am,
Thank
how
you.
does it feel? Ma'am, how does it feel when you look back at your journey? Because I think, as we say that you are a path breaker, of course, because you started Nerdiki.com. I was just going through and I thought, back in 2000 when IT was not that common, you started Nerdiki.com. So, ma'am, how did that thought come? And, now that you
Well,
look back your journey.
yeah, I think that since we're talking about saris, I'm going to bring back every answer, hopefully, to the idea of saris. My mother told me very early that there will come a time when you have to let go of my pallu. Like young children who hold on to their mother's pallu
Yeah.
for comfort, and I think it's both an image, a physical image, as well as an emotional image.
Yes.
And it's not like the bidai of when a girl leaves home and goes away, but she meant it in a sense that I will have to find my own personality, my own voice, my own vision, my own direction. So she was a very important part of my early influence in dance itself. And she always encouraged me to dream big, to look beyond India, to look beyond Madras, Chennai, to look
Yeah.
at all of India and then look at all of the world. So, in a sense, that she's the one who I think gave me the courage to dream. That's very important. I
So
think
true.
those kinds of moments come from your home. And
Yeah.
sometimes, if it doesn't come from the home, it can come from a very important teacher. Sometimes in
Yeah.
school, it could be a favorite teacher. It could
Yeah.
also be a favorite relative. You know,
Yeah.
it could be a grandmother. It could be Masi. It could be somebody. But somebody has to give you that. It's like
So true.
take a match and then put it to not just the oil lamp, but sometimes to also, what do you say for Karpuram? Camphor. We say
Yeah,
Karpuram. Camphor.
camphor.
It's like
Camphor.
putting a light to camphor. It just picks up like that. I think that's
Yeah.
what I needed. That idea that I could dream. And, I had 10-year career in television in New York City. I lived away from India for about 14 years. So already I knew about technology. I knew about the reach of technology. I mean, one can try to be a dancer on stage.
Yeah.
Where are you talking from? Which city?
I'm now based out in Guwahati, ma'am. In Assam.
Guwahati is one of my favorite, Kamakhya Devi.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, absolutely. Assam. I have so many Mekla Chadars, but we will come back to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, I worked in television for 10 years in New York, and I knew the power and reach of media. We can dance on the stage. We can dance in whatever Birla Sabhagar, Music Academy, Ravindra Kalakshetra, NPPA, Shanmukhananda, Kamani Auditorium. You can have what, 1,000 people if it's houseful, 1,500 people if it's houseful. But look at the reach of the conversation that we are having today. The possibility of the reach, And it crosses time zones, it crosses boundaries, it crosses geographies, it crosses faiths and cultures and civilizations. So I always knew the power of technology. And for Nartaki to go online in 2000 was for me very natural. In 1996, I already had a web presence, 4 years before Nartaki. So I had my own website and I had the Arangam website. So it was as early as 1996.
Yeah. Of course, ma'am.
Yeah. So today, Nartaki has a presence on the www portal. It has a presence on Instagram and on Facebook. And we are also on YouTube. I myself, I'm on Twitter as well, and I'm on Clubhouse. So the idea is for me, always, is to, what do I have to say? It's not just the portal. What are we doing with that opportunity? Like, if you have a mic, you give me now a mic to speak. How will I make use of that opportunity? I always found that talking about myself was very boring. Very boring. Okay, but what about building a community of young people? What about building a community of artists? What about building a community of not just dancers, but also people who are connected to dance, music, instrument makers, sari weavers, jewelry makers, lighting designers, those who build stages. So you get connected to weaving, craftspeople, sculpture, you get connected to literature and poetry. So literally, I would say, it's like a veni, that you braid. Dance brings together these other strands. They're like strings. When you pull it together and you braid. Decide if it's a 3 braid, a 6 braid, or an 8 braid flat. But you decide what can come into dance and what can enrich you. So the technology portal was for me a very natural progression for Nartaki. I've never done anything where I've thought about, I'm going to be pioneering, I'm going to be pathwaying, I'm going to be the first. No, I've done it with what I think I would say inner voice, a gut instinct. I've not waited for other people to say, like I would say, can I do this? Is this a good idea? No. Because when I was doing it, there was nobody else to, also ask, because these were very new times. I mean, Facebook only started in 2004. So you can imagine, and my Instagram much later, Twitter, I mean, everything was much later, right? So when we started, we were still writing handwritten notes. Of course, email had come. We were still sending fax by, fax correspondence. So the world has changed, of course, in 21 years. And I'm very proud actually of my team. And we've been, I think, many of them have been with me from the beginning. So I've had colleagues who've worked with me. I never say they're employees. I always say we are colleagues. I never say they work for me. I always say they work with me, because it's very, very important to have a democratic approach when you are a team builder.
So true, ma'am.
The dance and music world, especially classical dance and music world, has many divisions, hierarchical. Guruji hai is the most revered. You have to either do kaan pakadna in Kathak, aise, or you have to do pav chuna, chuna in other styles. I didn't want that. I wanted everybody to come, sit in a circle at a safe level on the floor or on a chair. And in a circle, you don't know who's the head of the table. If you have a table, a rectangle table, somebody sits at the head. No, in a circle, you don't know where it starts and ends. So it doesn't matter, we're all together. I've always encouraged that. I've encouraged decision making by listening to everybody. So, but my initiatives have not been by asking consensus. I've always gone out and started things and hoping like this, fingers crossed, that that it would work. But it's been it hasn't been easy, because for those who are watching and who may watch later, those of us in the arts, especially in theatre, music, dance, this has been a very difficult time. Many artists are out of work, and we may think, as we are talking, we may think, we have the phone, we can go online. But no, you try to go 75 kilometers outside Chennai, you go to a big town like Kanchipuram where these sarees are woven, and the connectivity is so bad. It's so poor. So what will folk artists do? How can we just say, perform and send it on phone? It's not, you can't do that. One phone is shared by the whole family. And what if the children are doing online classes? See, there's so much that we take for granted when we live in cities.
So true. Yeah, definitely, ma'am. But ma'am, I think you are a visionary, and your I think the things that you have said about your life and your journey itself is so inspiring. I have so many points to take away actually, and I'm being true to myself when I'm saying that.
Thank
So,
you.
ma'am, so, ma'am, you are a dancer, of course, and you're a performer. You have been performing from so long. And when in classical dance, I always believe that it's a spiritual form of expressing your emotions. I mean, it helps you to express all your emotions. And you have, as you say, you love your sarees. How do you think, being a performer yourself, how do you think, saree and dance has helped you to express your emotions or enhance your performance on stage?
Well, first of all, let's go to the word you used, spiritual. Yeah, when we learned dance as young girls, young children, all the spiritual and shlokas were not part of our learning. Maybe our parents would have shloka class outside dance class. It was not part of the dance training. The dance class was just come into dance class, do your namaskaram. It's called Tatti Namaskaram in Bharatanatyam, and dance. Okay? In Kathakali, Kudiyattam, in Kalaripayat, the students would come and there would be a lamp and they would do namaste to the lamp, not even to the teacher, to the lamp. So the idea of spirituality, or the word that you use, was not there. We learnt dance. We learnt it as a training, as an art form, and all classical dance, be it Manipuri or Kshatriya or Kathak or Odissi or Mohiniyattam or Bharatanatyam or Kuchipudi, it is the aharya, or the decoration aspect of it, the costume and jewelry, are a very, very important part of that dance experience. Aharya Abhinaya is one of the 4 Abhinayas, So the Angika Abhinaya is what you learn, the dance. And there is the Aharya Abhinaya. So it's natural for a Bharatanatyam dancer and the tradition to go to the fabrics of that area. So it was silk. After all, this was an art form that was patronized by nobility and royalty. So when one appeared in front of royalty and nobility, one dressed as best as one could. So if you want to see the image of a classical Bharatanatyam dancer, the closest image I would say is a South Indian bride today.
Yeah.
Because you would have all the jewelry, everything that the dancer would wear. And the sari weaves, they were silk. Sometimes they could be, what was very interesting is, and that's the reason I wore a contrast blouse today, and not the same blouse of the sari. The traditional hereditary performers would wear the sari in one color, and the blouse would be a completely different color.
Yeah, different color, yes.
Yeah, it would be like this, like a turquoise blue, and it won't even be plain. That would be like a brocade. Already, because of so much trade, and a lot of the things from South India went all the way to Banaras, they went everywhere, and then they brought back the weavers. If they saw something. There was already lots of mixing, or I would say weavers talking to each other, the techniques. So you will see Kanjivaram sari as a main costume. You would see the choli made in Banaras, in a completely like Banaras fabric. Yeah. And then you would see a fan at the bottom in a different color. So already colors were very important, but silk, yes, silk is, I would say, the primary fabric because it looked beautiful. It looked very, very beautiful even before electricity was invented. It looked very beautiful under the lamplight.
So true, ma'am. It has its own glitter and glamour.
Yes, because like this it's not a very old sari. This is about 15 years old. It was woven in Kanchipuram for a family wedding. So it's all one color, and I like all one color rather than big broad borders. But but Kanchipuram silk, as you keep wearing it and keep washing it now and then, it just becomes softer and softer. And the gold zari also takes on a certain kind of a nice, slightly duller kind of a sheen, and it looks beautiful under lamplight. So the sari with Bharatanatyam, sari with classical dance, and in the northeast, it would be, I would say, it would be Muga silk. It would be the tussar, like white color. Correct. So what the Manipuri people wear, or what the Assamese people in the Satriya dances they wear, or in Kathak it would be the Lucknowi or the Jaipuri kind of long angarkhas. And those anarkali kind of things. In Kerala it would be white and gold. Maybe the white would not be silk; it would be handloom, but the gold border would be silk. So the connection between classical dance and the weaving tradition has always been very, very close, because dancers, to look beautiful and to feel beautiful, needed to have really lovely fabrics and good weaves. And the 6-yard sari was, of course, so in demand. And as you know, in India, we make saris 6-yard. We make 7-yard saris. In Maharashtrian women, they wear. Then we have 9-yard saris. Yeah. And this is the only culture in which this unstitched fabric can become a turban. It can become a little cloth. It can become the first cloth that a baby sleeps in. The cradle. And the last cloth that a woman is covered with. She's covered in a beautiful sari as she's taken on her final journey. So the sari is a very important part of even our cultural psyche. Yeah. And I think one thing, let me tell you, we can never have enough saris. We're always looking at buying saris, or what is the new trend. A young designer from Kolkata reached out and said, "I've designed a sari with a pocket." I said, "What a great idea, sari with a pocket." So, and today, young girls like you are wearing saris with a blazer, a jacket, with a belt, with a t-shirt, so many different ways. I'm hoping that the sari comes back in fashion, I think it never went out of fashion, but a lot of young people feel that as we are commuting and going in buses or two-wheelers and all that. I think the salwar kameez or tunic with leggings, those kinds of things have become more practical for the working girl.
Yeah. But I think it was, I mean, it went to old textbook kind of like, if I consider like 6, 7 years before. But now I see that the sari is making a comeback, especially we see in Instagram and all other, the social media handles where there are so many sari influencers, I would say, who is taking this journey forward and inspiring so many. So I think that's a great thing that's happening around now.
Yeah,
And ma'am,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. May I say one thing? When you said the Instagram sari influencers, I think one of the most lovely things about what has happened on Instagram and with the sari is that it's not the size zero model who's now become the sari influencer.
Yes, yes.
Average women, just
Women, yeah.
regular women, and
Yes.
it's not the stick zero, no, not the stick size tall.
No, no,
And there are women who are like regular size, they can be slim, they can be slightly plump, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They love saris, they wear saris every day, they're posting on reels and stories
Yeah.
and writing about their saris, and that's what I find very, very refreshing. You
So
know
true,
that,
ma'am.
yeah.
Yeah.
So people with 50, 60,000 followers are people I'd never heard of before. But
So true.
look at the number of sari handles. Nari
Yeah.
in a sari, something pocket sari and a story, sari samurai, something this. So yeah, I think it's fantastic that
Yes,
people
ma'am. Yeah.
are
That's
looking
true.
at the sari and looking at it as now how can I wear it differently,
Yeah.
and what is the
Yeah.
story behind the sari?
So true, ma'am. Yeah. I think that's where, this whole thing comes that sari is so diverse. I mean, it doesn't like, for example, if you're wearing jeans and top or we are going for a kurti, it needs a specific size that, to fit in, we need a particular size. But for sari, it's not there. So I think, and it goes along with every age group. So the Instagram handle also makes me remind that, okay, this is so diverse. I think we are blessed to have a tradition like this. A
Well,
culture like this.
can I also tell you that this June, which is Pride Month, I
Yeah.
spoke to so many men who are dancers, either classical or contemporary dancers, and they also love sari. Not just that
Yeah.
they buy sari to make their dhotis, their dance dhotis, but they also, gay men are wearing saris in very different ways. They're draping them and wearing them for parties, and
Yeah.
so I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, and
The
they're
sari
made
which started off being like this very graceful drape and synonymous of an Indian woman, has now also, it's also broken gender boundaries, which I think is very, very
Yeah.
interesting for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's their head turner actually. I sometimes when I come across those handles, I really go back and see them, and it just strikes. And they look so graceful. I must say, they look so graceful in that.
Well,
So,
can
ma'am,
you believe that there's a whole career in sari draping now? Just drapists. I
Yes,
never knew, like 20, 30
yeah.
years ago, that I thought all of us know how to drape our saris. What's the big deal? But now there are so many people to drape your sari perfectly, and that's a full-time job,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I look at the
And
number
they're
of,
unleashing their creativity.
yes,
On how to drape, and there are so many ways that they have come across. They have put us, they have given in front of us. I think that's really great. So, ma'am, since you have been performing, and I think you're always in stage. I mean, you are always on stage, or you are continuously, in interaction with so many people. So, can I say that it's what you wear that defines your day, or or how your mood is? You actually, wear your sari or wear any dress according to it. So, if I
well,
have to,
I'm very conscious that when you appear on any platform, like when you leave your bedroom in the morning and when you come downstairs, like I live in a family home. So
yeah.
this is a home that my parents built. Myself and my brother and sister grew up here. My two children have grown up here. and my sister's grandson is growing up here. So when you live in a family home, and it's not a flat, where it's just
Yeah.
you and the door. So my mother and father were very fashionable people, very fashionable people. And they
Yeah.
always told me that when I make an appearance, the appearance is not just on stage. An appearance is not just for a party. An appearance is not just this interaction. The
Yeah.
appearance is when you step out of your room and come down the stairs to start your day. The day can be anything. It could be even rehearsal, not even a meeting with somebody, even at the breakfast table. My parents were very particular that we were dressed well, not expensive, dressed well, neatly.
Yeah.
And both of them were so fashionable. So for me, every time I talk, it could be Zoom, it could be on Instagram, it could be on Facebook, it could be YouTube. I'm extremely careful and I choose, I put out my wardrobe. You know,
Yeah.
I decide what is going to be the conversation. Would a sari be more appropriate or not? I have a very large wardrobe, and every year or so, I gather about 50 to 75 of my both saris and my other outfits, and I have a sale of pre-loved clothes. And I've had 5 or 6 so far, very successful. But I always put out. I'm very careful about how I present myself, and I'm wearing saris a lot this time during the pandemic. And at least by wearing saris online for conversations like this, I get to
Yeah.
air them. I get to dress up because tell me where we're not going out. We're not even going out. You
So
know,
true.
until recently, weddings were also on Zoom. We were given invitations and we were asked to sit and we would all appear in the Zoom square. Yeah.
Yeah. True. True. True.
Yeah. So, I think for me, I have saris, of course, in various kinds of fabrics, but I think for me, pure fabric, silk, cotton,
Got you.
linen, khadi, these four would be my four favorite fabrics. Because they are the natural fabrics, meaning they breathe. The others like the with polyester blend, georgette and chiffons, I don't wear. I never grew up wearing them. My mother wore a lot of cotton silks, and she loved organdy saris. You're too young to know when the Garden Vareli printed bright silks became very fashionable. And even before that, there was a sari with embroidery called the Hakoba sari. It was a huge hit, the Hakoba sari. So my mother would be very fashionable. She would organize fashion shows in the
Yeah.
city of
Oh,
Madras at that time. Yeah. So and she was able to get a lot of famous models from Bombay to come and model for charity events. So I
that's great.
remember her in these Hakoba saris, and her friends. At that time, what was very fashionable.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think even designers who have not designed many saris have started designing saris, and I think
Yeah.
that I like. The only point I'd like to make during this conversation, and it's fairly serious, is that it's very ironic. It's a little sad that people who can weave such a beautiful sari like this um, cannot afford to buy it themselves. They weave these beautiful fabrics, but they can't afford to buy it themselves. This would include the beautiful pochampallis and the ikats and the patolas and the
Yeah.
ghartulas, so many things, so many. So I think it's very important that we must think of the weaver. We must think of the weaver. And now on Instagram, because of the pandemic, there are so many, even fraud,
Yeah.
dishonest people selling saris, dishonest people. They will claim it is pure, they will claim it's organic, they claim it's cotton, they claim it's malmal, and then it's a very cheap price. You'll get tempted with a picture, you'll buy it, and then it'll be so shoddy, it'll be substandard. Then the
Yeah.
headache of trying to return it and get your money, it's not worth it, you know.
So
But
true.
it would be lovely if the sari retailers, even online, would be able to say woven by this community in this town or this village. Just to honor the weaver. If you
So
don't
true.
have the
From
name,
giving identity to the weaver. Yeah.
yes,
That,
yes, but
yeah.
somebody's hands have made it.
So true. So true,
Somebody's
ma'am.
hands have made it. You know.
Yeah.
So to me, this is not a thought that I've had. It's come to me now during the pandemic because the weavers and the craftspeople have been very hard hit, and
Yeah.
they have huge stocks that are piled up. Many of us
Yeah.
have tried to help them buying direct, but at least let's honor the weaver. Let's remember the weaver who can make that so fabulous material.
Yeah, I think you have made such a wonderful point. We have to, and I'll also make sure henceforth that it's important to give them the identity, as in like we should tell who has made them, so that others like who is wearing the sari can also
Yes,
always
yes,
tell that they have got from this region and they have used
yes,
this fabric. So true,
exactly.
ma'am. So,
Yes.
ma'am, your journey itself is an inspiration for so many youngsters because you have been a torchbearer in terms of, I would say, cultural activist. I would say you are a cultural activist actually. So, ma'am, what is your thoughts, or what I would say, what do you want to convey to the younger audience now who might be looking this video later on or now?
Yeah. Those who are looking at the video who are 35 and under, for instance,
Yeah.
because that is sort of the Instagram crowd. I would say to all you young people that remember I have children who are 32 and 34. Okay, I have children your age, and what I see and notice with a lot of you is that there's so much anxiety. You're so worried. You're so worried about the future. Like, what will happen? What will happen? 2 years ago, maybe you had plans, and those plans have been, shattered by COVID. What I want to tell you all is that you have time on your side. And with every crisis, it also brings an opportunity.
So
What
true,
have
ma'am.
you what have you learned during these 18 months of lockdown? What have you taken the time to unlearn and relearn? Have you tried to learn a new language? Have you tried to learn a new skill? Have you tried to do gardening? Have you tried music? What have you done that you've always wanted to do but never had the time to do? Have you started writing? Or maybe it's poetry, maybe it's music. So what have you done in the 18 months that maybe your main core focus you've not been able to do? Many are fortunate that maybe it's a two-family income, maybe your parents are supporting you, or maybe you've been laid off by your company. I'm just saying to all you young people, is there something called dignity of labor? Okay? No job is too below our dignity. No job. I'll give you an example of both my daughter and my son. My daughter is a writer, a fiction writer, and her second book on fantasy was released a year before COVID. Yeah. So, what happens when bookstores close? And so of course it came as a shock to her. But she
Yeah.
was also an animal rescuer and an activist. So she's thrown herself during the COVID time in trying to work with the NGOs who rescue animals from the street, cats and dogs, and she's helping them get spayed, taking them to the vet, making sure they're treated, they're healed, and then releasing back on the street. So her hands are full. My son, who had a degree in film and television from the US, and then of course came COVID,
Yeah.
the opportunities dried up. What did he do? He started cooking from his house. He started a cloud kitchen. His second passion was cooking. And this is 1 year down the line, he's doing very well. So you never know what happens in a crisis. You
So
never
true.
know what else there is inside of you. And it's always better for all you young people to diversify, to have more than one skill. So I would say to all you young people, don't be so anxious. You have time. People like us, we should be more anxious. I should say, oh my God, 2 years of my dancing career has been taken away from me. In my mature age, I should be very anxious, saying it's 2 very important years. But I have not been anxious. It's not like I'm waiting to return to the stage. I've been so active online. I've been commissioning and producing and engaging with so many other kinds of people and artists, especially young artists. And it's very important for young people. You need to believe in yourself. You should not give away your time, your services, your art, your knowledge for free, just for visibility. You can do it once, you can do it twice. But don't keep on doing things for free. Find a way in which you value what you have, what you know. Put a certain price on it. Don't be afraid to talk about money. And those who say, how can you talk about money? I'm giving you an exposure, I'm giving you a chance. Maybe you can say yes to it once. And maybe that is really important. But don't worry that if you're not seen all the time on somebody else's platform, that people will forget you. How can they forget you? You have the phone, you have your reels, you've got your stories, you've got your whatever TikTok type things happening in India, you've got YouTube. You won't be forgotten. But what are you putting out? That's also really important, isn't it? Every time you put something out, think of how you can spread one positive message, one thing that can be positive for somebody watching or somebody listening. Because there's so much sadness, there's so much worry, there's so much paranoia, there's so much, anger, there's so much bitterness, there's so much hatred, there is so much division, there's agitation. Politicians are busy trying to divide us. Let's not divide ourselves.
So true, ma'am. So true, yeah. I think you have given such important life lessons. It's very important, and especially during this pandemic, whatever you have said, I think I'm also able to resonate with that. I think it is almost every one of us has gone through this time and have gone through this emotion that you have said. And thank you so much, ma'am, for putting this up. I think it's such an important life lesson. And it was such a lovely discussion, ma'am. And you look really, really pretty, and you have inspired me. And I think like your life journey is an inspiration for every one of us, every youngsters who are looking into this video. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. It was
Before
an
I go,
honor.
can I share the story of this jhumka?
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Okay. So this jhumka, I'm just going to come a little closer. It's corals and gold. Yeah. And I have a performance that's an active repertoire called A Million Sitas. So it's a dance and theatre performance. So I had done it about 9-10 years ago in Madras in an open air garden cafe. And a jewelry designer who's a friend of mine saw it. She went back, and the very next day she created this jhumka, and she calls it the Sita jhumka. She called me and said, "I made this jhumka. I want you to see it." And so I saw it, and she said, "I made it after watching A Million Sitas." So and then then it's mine now. So just wanted to say that this is the Sita jhumka. So you never know. You never know at what moment you inspire whom. Yeah. So I think it's really important that when I step out, that I realize that I am in a sense an ambassador for my art, for the craft of my area of India, Kanjivaram, Tamil Nadu textiles. And also what I say is very important, because today we tend to only look at film stars and sports people as role models, our heroes and heroines. But I'm saying, why not look at cultural people, artists, because artists have a much longer life. A few box office hits and box office flops, and sports also, you have a shorter life. I really feel that creative people, the painters, the poets, the sculptors, the dancers, the theatre actors, they should also be role models, and we can start by really behaving like role models as well.
So
I
true.
think artists must also behave like role models because we can't, as we grow older, I can't demand that you respect me. I have to behave in a way in which respect comes automatically,
So
from
true.
the other side. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for the invitation. And
Thank you so much, ma'am. It
be
was an
safe,
honor for
everyone.
me to have you here in the show today. And as you said, I think people who are who are the torch bearer of culture, especially dancers, weavers, sculptors. I think they are the one who are carrying our traditions and cultures ahead, and that is why our culture is still alive. So I'm so, and I completely agree that we should consider our cultural gurus as our role models as well, and we should also keep them in the same category in which we keep our sports person as well as film stars and everyone else. And ma'am, please, whenever you visit Assam, do let me know.
Of
I'd love
course,
to meet you. I'd love to meet you. And
absolutely. When I come to Kamakya next, absolutely. Yes.
sure,
So
ma'am.
now that we're connected, and I think I'm going to go back to your site and order a sari.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
It's so glad. I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
And thank you
Thank
everybody
you,
for
ma'am.
watching. Namaste.
Thank you,
Namaste.
everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste, ma'am. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.